My name is Roland Murphy, and I'm 58 years old. I was once a man who took pride in being a father, a husband, and a provider. My wife, Linda, and I built a life together, raising our daughter, Avery, in a small but comfortable home in the suburbs of New York. I spent my days working in a mid-level office job, never rich, but never struggling either, just steady. But now, after Linda's passing, I'm nothing but a shadow in my own home. Avery has grown distant, and her husband, Tom, treats me like an inconvenience. I've spent my life quietly, trying to do the right thing, but I've never been good enough. I've watched my daughter rise, becoming the successful lawyer she always dreamed of, while I've been left behind in the dust. The truth is, I've always felt like the black sheep in a family that never truly saw me. What I didn't expect was that my daughter, my only child, would be the one to push me out when I was at my lowest. And now, with everything I thought I knew about my family crumbling around me, I'm beginning to uncover secrets that make me question everything. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. I wasn't ready for the way everything would change when the house was sold, and when I learned that I was nothing more than a pawn in someone else's game. The real shock, though, I'm only just beginning to understand what's at stake, and it's not just my home. I thought I had nothing left until I found out the truth. And then I realized how much more I stood to lose. I woke up the next morning to an empty house again. It was quiet, eerily quiet, the kind of quiet that settles in when you realize you're unwanted. The living room, once full of laughter, was now barren. The coffee pot on the counter had been left untouched, just like the conversations that never happened. I ran my fingers over the worn-out couch where Linda used to sit. Everything in this house reminded me of her. I had gotten used to being invisible. Avery had grown distant over the last year. But this was different. When she told me I needed to leave last night, her voice had been colder than the air in the room. I could feel the finality in her words, like I was a burden she was no longer willing to carry. And Tom, standing silently in the corner, didn't lift a finger. No defense, no remorse. I hadn't expected this, not from her, my own daughter, the one I raised, the one I fought for. And now, she was the one who kicked me out. No apologies, no second chances, just a door slammed in my face. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. What was the point? I had one suitcase, the one I'd used when I first moved in here. A few shirts, some toiletries, nothing more. Nothing left to my name but the memories of a life that was slipping away. The walk to the door was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I couldn't even look back. When I stepped out onto the front porch, the cold hit me like a slap. The wind cut through my jacket as if it was mocking me. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the house I'd once built, a house that was no longer mine. I hadn't even taken a step down the driveway before Avery's voice called out from the doorway. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, Roland." I didn't turn around. There was nothing left to say. I had to find somewhere to go. I had nowhere left, but what hurt the most wasn't being kicked out, it was the realization that my daughter, my own flesh and blood, had turned her back on me. And as I walked away from that house, the feeling of betrayal gnawed at me like a cancer, spreading through my chest. But there was something else, something deeper. A flicker of anger, because I knew, somewhere deep inside, that I wasn't just losing a home. I was losing my place in a world that no longer wanted me. And I had to find out why. I spent the night at a rundown motel on the edge of town. The kind of place where the wallpaper was peeling and the air always smelled stale. I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, replaying the events from the night before. How could Avery do this to me? I had given up everything for her. Every penny I earned, every ounce of my time, had been dedicated to her. And now, she was the one who shut the door in my face. I checked my phone again. No messages from her, no calls, not even a simple, "I'm sorry." I could feel the sting in my chest. But I wasn't going to beg her. I wasn't going to grovel. And then, as I scrolled through my contacts, something caught my eye. A name I hadn't thought of in years, Angela Byrne. She had been a friend once, a long time ago, before life took us in different directions. But maybe, just maybe, she could help me now. I had no other choice. I dialed her number. the sound of the ringing filling the quiet room. It rang 5 times before she picked up. "Roland?" Her voice crackled through the line. "What is it?" I wasn't sure what I was asking for, but I knew I needed answers. "Angela," I said, my voice hoarse, "I need to know something. I need to understand what's going on with my family, and I think you're the only one who can help me." There was a long pause before she answered. "Roland, you don't know what you're asking for, but if you want the truth, you better be prepared for everything that comes with it." Her words sent a chill down my spine. The truth, I thought, but what truth? What was really going on? I thought I had lost everything, but when Angela spoke, I realized how much deeper the rabbit hole went. I sat in the dingy motel room, staring at the peeling wallpaper. The fluorescent light above flickered, casting shadows across the cracked mirror. The smell of stale cigarettes and cheap carpet filled my nostrils. But it didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. I had nowhere to go, no one to turn to. I rubbed my eyes and reached for my phone. A text from Avery flashed on the screen, but I didn't bother opening it. What could she say? "Sorry, I didn't mean it." It wasn't enough anymore. Her words from last night echoed in my mind. "You're a burden." There it was, the truth, the one thing I'd been too afraid to face. I tried calling Mike Henry, an old colleague of mine, someone I trusted once. Maybe he could point me in the right direction. But the call went straight to voicemail. Just like everyone else, no one wanted to help me anymore. Not even the people who had been close to me. I couldn't even rely on the old friends I thought would always have my back. The quiet was suffocating. The world outside seemed too big, too cold, but I wasn't going to let this be the end. I was Roland Murphy, and I still had something left to fight for. I wasn't going to let them take everything from me. Not without a fight. I couldn't just sit here and wallow in this misery. I had to do something. The house. The damn house. That's what they were after. Avery and Tom were planning to sell it. The house Linda and I had built together. My home. It wasn't just a house, it was the last piece of my life with her. But they didn't care about that. They didn't care about me either. It was all about the money, the power, the future they could secure without me in the picture. But there was something they didn't know. A secret Linda had kept from them. A piece of the puzzle that could bring it all crashing down. My hands clenched around the phone as I made my decision. I needed to find out more about the house, its real value, its legal status, and most importantly, the secret clause in Linda's will. I had to know what she had left for me, if there was anything at all. The clock on the nightstand ticked, its rhythmic sound growing louder as I stared at the phone. There was only one person who could help me now, Angela Byrne. Angela had been my friend once. A long time ago, before everything went wrong. She'd disappeared after I got married. But I knew she had connections that could help me get to the bottom of this. But I couldn't afford to trust anyone too easily. Not anymore. I dialed her number. It rang 3 times before she picked up. "Roland?" Her voice was as sharp as I remembered it. There was no warmth, no sympathy, just a cold, calculated tone. "What is it?" "I need your help, Angela," I said, my voice low. "I need to find out everything about the house. The legal documents, the sale, everything. I think I've been kept in the dark. And I need to know what's really going on." There was a long pause before she spoke. I could hear the hesitation in her voice. "You don't know what you're asking for. You've got no idea how deep this goes." "I'm not asking for charity," I replied. "I need answers, and I need them fast." Another pause, and then Angela let out a sigh. "Fine, but you better be prepared. Roland, what you're about to find out could destroy everything you thought you knew." "I'm ready," I said, though I wasn't sure I was. But there was no turning back now. I had to know. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my heart pounding. Angela was never the type to help without a reason. She had her own agenda, and I knew it, but I had no choice. If there was one person who could unlock the secrets of that house, it was her. Hours later, Angela met me in a dark alley behind the courthouse. The place felt like something straight out of a movie. The harsh streetlights above flickered, casting long, sharp shadows on the cracked pavement. I could feel the tension in the air, like something was about to snap. She was waiting near the dumpsters, her face half hidden in the darkness. Her red scarf swayed in the wind, and her eyes, cold and calculating, never left mine as I approached. "You came alone?" she asked, her voice low and sharp. "Of course," I replied. "What's going on, Angela? You've been acting strange lately." She smirked, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "I'm just getting tired of people asking questions they don't want answers to," she said. "But you, Roland, you've always had a way of getting under people's skin. I should have known you wouldn't back down." "I'm not backing down now," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Tell me what you know about the house. What's in that will? What did Linda leave behind?" Angela looked around, as if to make sure no one was listening. Her gaze darted to the shadows, then back to me. "You really want to know?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I told you that house, everything you've been fighting for, is nothing but a lie?" I felt a chill run down my spine. "What are you talking about?" Her eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time, I saw something I hadn't expected: fear. She was scared. "There's more to the will than you think," she said, stepping closer. "Much more, but I can't tell you everything right now. You're not ready." Before I could ask her anything else, the sound of footsteps echoed from the other side of the alley. A car door slammed. Angela's eyes widened, and she backed away quickly, disappearing into the shadows before I could stop her. I stood frozen for a moment, my mind racing. What did she know, and why was she so afraid to tell me? I didn't have the answers, but I was damn sure going to get them. I turned and began to walk back to my car, but as I reached the corner of the alley, I saw a figure standing in the distance. Someone was watching me. I wasn't alone. A chill ran through me. I wasn't sure who was following me, but I knew one thing: they were getting closer. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up every time I glanced around. It wasn't just paranoia. Someone was following me. I could feel it in the way the shadows seemed to grow longer, in the way the footsteps behind me seemed to match my own. I didn't know who it was, but I couldn't afford to ignore it. Not now, not with everything hanging by a thread. Angela's cryptic words still echoed in my mind. "You're not ready for the truth." What truth? What was she trying to warn me about? But there was no time to dwell on her words. There was too much at stake. I met Angela again, this time in a rundown coffee shop in the city center. The kind of place you'd never expect someone to notice you in. The fluorescent lights flickered, buzzing above us, the aroma of stale coffee mixed with something sour in the air. It was the perfect place to talk in secret, or so I thought. She slid into the booth across from me, her eyes darting around nervously. The moment she sat down, she leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're playing with fire, Roland. You have no idea what's coming." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Tell me, then, what's going on with the house? With Avery and Tom? What are they hiding?" Angela hesitated, glancing over her shoulder again. "You think this is about the house?" "It's not entirely. That's just the surface." My mind raced. "What do you mean?" She locked eyes with me, her voice sharp. "The house, the money, it's all connected. But there's something bigger, something they've been hiding from you for years. Something that has nothing to do with property, and everything to do with power." I leaned forward. "I don't understand. What are you talking about?" Angela's gaze flicked toward the door before she spoke again, almost in a rush. "Avery's been lying to you, Roland. She's been working with Tom for months, maybe longer. But it's not just about the house. It's about the family business. The one your wife was involved in. They're trying to take everything." The weight of her words hit me like a punch to the gut. My head spun. The family business? I didn't even know we had one. Angela's eyes darkened. "You didn't know because they made sure you wouldn't. Your wife kept it hidden. Kept you in the dark. She knew what was coming. She knew what Tom and Avery were capable of." I sat back, trying to process it all. "So, what? Avery and Tom were planning this all along?" Angela leaned in closer. "They didn't start this yesterday. This goes back years. Your wife's will. There's a clause. A hidden clause that you haven't seen. It's not about the house. It's about what you're going to inherit when the time is right." I felt the air in the room shift. What do you mean? Her voice dropped to a near whisper. Avery has been manipulating you for years. Roland. And Tom? He's been in it for the power. He wants control of everything, your wife's estate, the business, the money, and he's willing to do anything to get it. I felt sick, but why didn't Linda tell me? Why wasn't I involved? Angela's eyes softened, but only for a moment. Because Linda knew you wouldn't be able to handle it. She didn't trust Tom, but she couldn't protect you forever. She didn't want you to get dragged into their mess. So she kept you out of it. But now they're making their move. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I had to steady myself. So, what do I do now? Angela's gaze flicked to the door again, her nerves getting the best of her. You can't trust anyone, Roland, not Avery, not Tom, not even me, but you need to find that will. You need to see for yourself. It's the only way you're going to get the truth. Before I could ask her anything else, Angela's expression shifted. She stiffened, her hand going to her purse. A moment later, a man walked into the cafe, his eyes scanning the room before landing on our table. I recognized him immediately. It was one of Tom's men. Get out of here, Roland, Angela whispered urgently. They're onto you. You don't have much time. I didn't hesitate. I slid out of the booth, my heart pounding as I darted toward the back door. I could hear footsteps behind me, but I didn't look back. I couldn't afford to. My mind raced as I pushed through the exit into the alley behind the cafe. I felt like I was running through thick fog. The air was damp, the city lights flickering as I sprinted down the alley, hearing the footsteps growing louder behind me. Someone was following me. I had no doubt now. But who? A figure stepped out from the shadows in front of me, blocking my path. I froze, my chest tightening. The man had a smirk on his face, but there was no humor in it. He was one of Tom's goons, and I could see the gun in his waistband. Going somewhere, Roland? He said, his voice low, almost taunting. I backed away slowly, trying to keep my breathing steady. I don't want any trouble. He chuckled darkly. Too bad, trouble's already found you. Before I could react, he lunged at me, and everything went black. When I came to, I was lying on the cold pavement, my head throbbing. My hands were bound behind my back. I tried to sit up, but pain shot through my skull. I could barely focus. The last thing I remembered was Angela's warning. You're not ready for the truth. But now, the truth was rushing toward me, and there was no escape. I woke to the sound of sirens in the distance. The room was dim, the air heavy with the smell of stale sweat and alcohol. My head throbbed with the sharp pain of waking up too fast. I rubbed my temples and tried to focus, but the dizziness wouldn't let up. My hands were still bound behind my back, the ropes biting into my skin. I could feel the cold concrete beneath me, and for a brief moment, I wondered if this was the end. The last thing I remembered was Angela's warning, her eyes wide with fear. But what had happened after that? Why had I ended up here, in some forgotten corner of this godforsaken city? I strained against the ropes, the reality of my situation settling in. Tom's men had gotten me, no doubt about it. They had probably been following me for days, watching my every move. They were closing in, tightening their grip on me, and I had no idea how much longer I could stay one step ahead. The door to the small, damp room creaked open, and a figure stepped inside, a tall man with a dark suit and an even darker expression. His cold eyes met mine. Up, he commanded, voice low and menacing. I didn't move. I didn't think it would come to this, I said, trying to steady my breath. The words felt weak as they left my mouth, but I couldn't help it. You don't have to do this. Whatever it is Tom thinks I know. I don't. I'm just trying to get by. The man's lips twisted into a sneer. You think this is about what you know? He asked, stepping closer. No, Roland, it's about control. You're just a pawn, and now, it's time to clean up the mess you've made. I swallowed hard, panic creeping up my throat. I had no idea what he meant. Mess? What mess? What the hell was going on? He reached into his jacket, pulling out a set of keys. He unlocked my restraints without a word. I rubbed my wrists, still numb from the tight ropes. You want to know what your family's hiding? The man asked. His voice a low growl. Why don't you tell me? I shot back, my voice shaking despite my best efforts. The man's smile widened, a cruel gleam in his eyes. You have no idea, do you? It's not just about the house. It's not just about money. Roland, it's about power, the family business, and you've been standing in the way for far too long. He stepped back, leaving me standing there, disoriented. You're going to help us, whether you want to or not, he said, his voice cold. Your daughter and her husband are about to take everything from you. All you have left is this. Stay out of their way, or lose more than just your house. I was still trying to process his words when the door slammed shut behind him. Alone again, the tension in the room thickened, my heart racing. I didn't know who to trust anymore, but the truth was becoming clearer by the second. Avery and Tom weren't just interested in my house. They were after something far bigger, something I had no idea existed. I thought about Angela, her cryptic warning, "You're not ready for the truth." But now, I wasn't sure I could handle it. What had Linda left me? What was hidden in the family business? And why was I the last to know? My mind spun in 1,000 directions. There was so much I didn't understand, so much I needed to uncover. The sound of footsteps echoed outside the door. I forced myself to move, pushing myself up from the cold floor. I needed to get out of here, to figure out my next move. Time was running out. I made my way to the window. The glass cracked but still intact. I peered out into the dark street below. A black SUV sat parked across the street, its headlights off, but I knew someone was inside, watching. I could feel their eyes on me. I wasn't alone. They were still watching, waiting for me to make a mistake. I needed a plan. I needed to get out of here before things got worse. But how? I wasn't sure where to go or who to turn to. The world I thought I knew had crumbled. Everyone I thought I could trust had turned their backs on me. The only people who mattered, Avery, Tom, were the ones pulling the strings. I had to face them. I had to confront the truth, no matter how dangerous it might be. But first, I needed to find Angela. If there was anyone who could help me make sense of all this, it was her. She knew more than she was letting on. The night dragged on, but the adrenaline kept me going. I managed to slip out of the room through a small back exit, my heart pounding with every step. The alley was empty, but the air felt thick with anticipation. I moved quickly, keeping to the shadows, trying to stay out of sight. As I rounded the corner, I nearly bumped into someone, Angela. Her face was pale, her eyes frantic as she grabbed my arm. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, looking over her shoulder. "I came for answers," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You know more than you're letting on. You have to tell me. What is this all about?" "Angela?" She hesitated, glancing nervously around the corner. "You don't understand, Roland," she said, her voice shaking. "They've already moved the money. The family business. They've been planning this for years. And now that you're in the middle of it, they won't stop until it's all theirs." I took a step back, my mind spinning. "The business? You mean everything?" Angela nodded. "Yes, everything. And they'll stop at nothing to take it all, including you." Before I could say another word, the sound of tires screeching down the street cut through the tension. Angela's face went ashen. "They're coming," she whispered. "You need to go, now." I didn't need another warning. The urgency in her voice told me everything I needed to know. We had moments, maybe seconds, before Tom's men found us. I turned and ran, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. There was no turning back now. The game had changed, and I was running out of time. I didn't wait for Angela. I couldn't. I didn't have time. Every second that passed was a second closer to losing everything. My head was spinning. The world felt like it was slipping away under my feet. And all I had were questions. So many damn questions. I didn't trust Angela anymore. Not fully, but she had given me the pieces I needed. And if I could just put them together, maybe, just maybe, I could stop this. Stop Avery. Stop Tom. I made my way to the building where the family business was based. A sleek, glass tower in the heart of the city. It was a symbol of everything they wanted, everything I had been shut out of. A sharp breath escaped me as I approached the lobby. Every step felt heavier than the last, like the weight of my own decisions was pulling me under. The elevator ride up was short, but each second felt like a lifetime. A lifetime of regret, of realizing how little I truly knew about the people I called family. The door to the top floor opened with a soft chime. I stepped into the cold, sterile corridor of the executive suite. The air smelled like polished wood and freshly brewed coffee, a sharp contrast to the growing nausea in my stomach. I didn't belong here. A figure emerged from behind a set of frosted glass doors. It was Tom, looking as smug as ever, his usual confidence wrapping around him like an ironclad suit. He smiled when he saw me, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Roland," he said, his voice smooth, almost mockingly so. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Funny," I said, my voice low. "I didn't expect to be here either. But here we are." Tom stepped forward, his hands tucked casually in his pockets. "I think you're confused. This isn't your world anymore. You're not part of the equation." I took a step toward him. "You've been planning this for months, haven't you? The house, the business, the whole damn thing. I was just a roadblock to you." He didn't flinch. "You were more than that, Roland. You were family. But family doesn't mean what it used to. People grow. People move on. You just didn't." I clenched my fists. I didn't realize it was my fault that you and Avery decided to run everything, to push me out of my own life. Tom's lips curled into a smirk. "You're still thinking small, Roland. It's not about you. It's about what's next, the future, the power, the legacy we've built, with or without you." His words cut deeper than I cared to admit. There it was, the heart of the matter. Avery and Tom weren't just after money, they were after control. And I was nothing more than a complication in their way. "I came here for answers," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Tell me about the will. What did Linda leave me?" Tom's expression darkened for a split second, but then it was gone, replaced by his usual composed mask. "You're wasting your time. Linda left you nothing. The will's been changed. Everything that mattered is already in our hands." A cold wave of realization hit me like a slap. "What do you mean, change? Linda wouldn't. She didn't have a choice." He interrupted, his voice low, almost sympathetic. "Linda knew what would happen if you were ever involved. She knew you wouldn't be strong enough to handle it." I stared at him, trying to keep my composure. The walls around me were closing in, but I wasn't about to let him see me break. "Everything you thought was yours," Tom continued, "is already mine. It was never about the house. It's about control. You're just a casualty of that. And frankly, I'm surprised it took you this long to figure it out." The words felt like acid in my mouth. I could feel the anger bubbling up, but I forced it down. Anger wasn't going to help me now. The truth was that I had been blind. I had spent too much time focusing on the house, the small stuff, when the real prize was the business. And Avery? She was no different than Tom, just another player in the game, willing to sacrifice everything for power. I took a deep breath. "You're wrong about one thing, Tom." He raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Oh, and what's that?" "I'm not out of the game yet." I spun on my heel and headed for the door, ignoring the confusion on his face. There was one thing I still had, something they didn't count on. I had access to Linda's safe deposit box, the one she'd hidden away. The documents in there would be the key to everything, to stopping them. The elevator ride down was quieter than I remembered, the hum of the machinery grinding in my ears. But as I reached the ground floor, I felt something shift. A flicker of movement caught my eye. I turned just in time to see a man step out of the shadows, his face partially obscured by a dark hat. "Roland," the man said, his voice gravelly, familiar. "We need to talk." It was Mike Henry. "Mike," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "What the hell are you doing here?" He looked around nervously before pulling me into a small alcove. "This is bigger than you think," he whispered, glancing over his shoulder. "I tried to warn you. You don't know everything yet." I froze. "What are you talking about? What's going on?" Mike leaned in closer, his face tense. "There's something in the business. Something no one wants you to find. And it's connected to the will. I never wanted you involved. But now I see I have no choice." I could feel the pit in my stomach grow deeper. "What is it, Mike?" He swallowed hard. It's not just a business, Roland. It's a legacy, one that's been passed down for generations. And Avery, she's been planning to take it all, with Tom's help. But the truth? It's buried, and I can't let you walk into this blind. Before I could ask him anything else, Mike looked over my shoulder. His eyes widened, and his face paled. I don't have much time, he said, pushing something into my hand. Take this. Don't trust anyone, especially not Angela. She's deeper in this than you think. The piece of paper he handed me was covered in cryptic notes. But I had no time to process it. From the corner of my eye, I saw someone, Avery. She stood across the street, watching me, her gaze cold and calculating. And just like that, I knew I wasn't just fighting for the house. I was fighting for everything I'd ever known. I stood there in the dark alley, the cold air cutting through my coat, my breath coming in short, shallow bursts. My mind raced as the realization of everything I had learned in the past few days settled in. Angela's warning echoed in my ears. You don't understand what's at stake. Roland, she was right. I hadn't understood, not until now. I was tangled in a web of deceit. Avery and Tom hadn't just stolen my house. They'd stolen my life, and I had been blind to it. Now, the pieces were falling into place. Linda had hidden the truth from me, but she had left me a key to the business, to everything. I couldn't let them take it, not after everything. My phone buzzed in my pocket, snapping me out of my thoughts. I fumbled for it, my fingers numb from the cold. A text from Angela. They know you're coming. It's too late to turn back. I didn't respond. I didn't have time. I needed to find that will. I looked up at the building ahead of me, Tom's office. The nerve of him, turning my own family against me. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about the power, the legacy of everything Linda had worked for. The family business was more than just money. It was the one thing Tom and Avery wanted to control. And they had already started moving pieces into place to make sure no one else could take it from them. I stepped forward, the weight of the moment heavy on my shoulders. The door to the building was locked, but I knew what I was looking for. The back entrance was always left unlocked. I moved quietly, my breath shallow, trying to stay unseen. When I reached the back door, I hesitated. This was it. There was no turning back. I could feel the eyes on me again, the ones that had been watching me from the shadows. But I couldn't stop now. I had to see this through. I pushed the door open slowly, the hinges creaking as I stepped inside. The air was stale, filled with the scent of old leather and paperwork. I moved quickly, heading for the back office where I knew the documents would be stored. The floor creaked under my boots, each step louder than the last. But I didn't stop. I reached the office and found the safe in the corner of the room. My heart raced as I keyed in the combination Linda had given me. The one I had forgotten years ago. It was a simple number, one that had always seemed insignificant at the time. But now, it felt like the most important number in the world. The safe clicked open. Inside, there were files, a stack of them. My hands trembled as I rifled through the papers, my breath quickening. And then, I found it, the will. It was worse than I thought. Linda had known what Avery and Tom were planning. She had left behind a clause in the will, one that ensured the family business would remain mine after her death. But it wasn't just the business, it was the key to everything. The documents in the safe detailed a series of transactions, a web of financial dealings that had been hidden from me. I could hear voices approaching, but I wasn't done. I couldn't leave yet. I grabbed the files, stuffing them into my jacket, but as I moved toward the door, I froze. The footsteps were closer now, too close. I turned slowly, my heart in my throat, and there she was, Avery. Her eyes locked onto mine, a mixture of shock and fury crossing her face. You shouldn't have come here, Roland, she said, her voice cold, controlled. You never should have gotten involved. I backed up slowly, my mind racing. What's going on, Avery? What have you and Tom been planning? This isn't just about the house, is it? It's about the business, about everything. Avery's expression flickered for a moment, then hardened. You don't understand, do you? This was never about you. It was about securing the future, about making sure we could move on without the past weighing us down. The past? I spat, taking a step forward. You mean the family I built? The one you tore apart for power? Avery's eyes narrowed. You don't get it, Roland. You were always in the way. Always. You thought you were helping us. But you were just holding us back. The business, the house. It's all just a means to an end. The words stung more than I wanted to admit. So, this is what it's come to. You're willing to destroy everything. Even your own family. For power? Avery's gaze was icy, but there was something in it, something that made me pause. It was never about destroying anything. It was about survival, and now, it's too late to stop what's already in motion. She took a step toward me, her voice low. You think you have control? You think those documents will change anything? You're too late. It's over. In that moment, I saw it, the truth I had been running from. I was never going to get back what I had lost. Not the house, not the business. What I had to fight for now wasn't the past. It was myself. I wasn't fighting for a legacy anymore. I was fighting to take back my life, my dignity. I didn't wait for her to make the next move. I turned, running through the hallway, the sound of Avery's voice calling out behind me. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. As I reached the exit, the door swung open. There stood Tom, blocking my path. The smug look on his face told me everything I needed to know. He knew what I had. You're too late, Roland, he said, stepping forward. This was always going to happen. I held the documents tight in my hand, my pulse pounding in my ears. But as I looked at Tom, I realized something. The power had always been in my hands. Even when I didn't know it. The fight wasn't over. Not yet. As I stepped into the night, the cold air stinging my face, I knew this was just the beginning. But one thing had become clear. I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my own flesh and blood, take away everything that mattered. Not without a fight. The world wasn't black and white. Not even family. The truth was messy. But in the end, it was all I had left. Sometimes, I thought as I walked away, we have to lose everything to realize what we're truly fighting for.